Transitioning Humanitarians with Viki. Hi, Viki.
Hi, Asel. Hello, everyone.
So, the December topic that we have decided to talk about is connection. And this, in the beginning, as usual, we want to give an overview of what we're talking about, why we need to talk about it, and then what's actually standing in the way of us feeling that connection. And then we will dive each week into specific topics or focus that we'll be talking about. So today, Vicky, let's start with why we need to talk about it. And then
Mhm.
we can go also into why it's difficult to have that connection at times. What would
Yeah,
you say?
yeah. I think it's a very, very important subject. It's a good subject because I think there is so much written about connecting to oneself and connecting to others. But what does it really mean? And I think that's the
Yeah,
core of the question. Like, what does it mean? What am I supposed to feel or not supposed to feel, or what am I
yeah,
feeling? And I think that's why it's quite an individual thing in a sense how we perceive it. But I think what I would like to say is that if we are asking ourselves why is it important, I believe it's to really give us the I don't even want to say meaning of life, but really give us the substance of life. Give us, because as they say, the quality of your life is reflected by the quality or connections of your relationships, and that starts
mm,
with yourself. So that's I would say that's why the connections are important, because it makes us feel in a certain way. It makes us it gives us also response.
yeah,
The connections to ourselves and to others gives us a response to our questions. So I would
yeah.
say it just improves the quality of our life, and that's just one aspect of it. And I'm sure you will have so many different things to say about that.
Yeah, so I was thinking the main thing for me is if it's not connection, I feel like it becomes very mechanical, our lives. And by mechanical, I mean we can do certain things, we can perform tasks, right? We can like achieve things, but then when we have this feeling of something is missing, or is this it,
Yeah.
or it's not the way it used to feel anymore, right? So those are the moments, or like I like to think of, if we're not having the connection, there is bound to be a crisis of some sort that we call it maybe midlife crisis. Other people call it work crisis or career crisis, whatever the crisis that you have in mind is. I think the culmination of when we kept going and going without really feeling
Mhm.
whatever that we desired to feel, but we kept suppressing it. And at a certain point, I think we recognize, okay, we might be in a crisis that we need to do something about it. And I find one of the biggest reasons why we have that is because we haven't been connecting to whatever we were doing, or to relationships we were building, or maybe to ourselves essentially, right? So that's why I think that if we want to have that quality, like you're saying, of life, then connection becomes that oil, or that, I
Mhm.
don't know,
Yeah.
the moving, the glue, or whatever the way you imagine,
Mhm.
is the one that like keeps everything flowing, basically.
Yeah, yeah, that's a wonderful metaphor that you're using. And as I'm thinking about the subjects, and as I was thinking about it at home, if we, as you say, if we don't have the connection, we don't also feel. We somehow often might feel either emptiness, and I think one of the signs that we are disconnected might be either from people or ourselves. Might be the sign that we are looking for either confirmation of ourselves, or confirmation and attestation from others. So we seek approval from others, and I think this is one of the signs that we are not connected, that
Yes.
we don't allow ourselves the connection. And actually, I recall myself also the how easy it is to go from feeling something to have the sense of intuition or emotions, and use the heart really for connection, as opposed to connecting intellectually, which is
Yeah.
also something that we do very frequently. And I think in today's time, many of us connect intellectually so much easier because we share the ideas, we share ethics, we share morals, we share, life attitudes, and it's so much easier than really put our heart into work and say, okay, I mean, what is my heart connection? So I would stop
Yeah,
here. Um,
exactly. And that leads me to another important part is that I think when we're not able to connect to others, that also shows to me that we're not willing to be vulnerable about certain things or share certain things, right? And the reason why that is also because we haven't processed certain things or we're afraid of judgments, like coming back to the approval thing. Or we tend to do things like for the sake of doing it because we feel like that's the right thing to do or that's how we are supposed to do, but we're not really feeling that's actually what is meaningful to us to do. And therefore the other importance of connection becomes is that when we are like the reason why we need to talk about it is that we are not feeling certain things but we do it anyway and that feels disconnected.
yeah,
And then when we are talking to other people we don't really trust their intention or we don't really believe what they're saying and we don't really believe in what we're doing and therefore it becomes like this like
yeah,
disjointed or disconnected way of communicating with others. And I think that then leads us to feeling like our lives is a bit
yeah.
like good on the paper or
Mhm.
somehow it all is good except that we're not feeling it, right? And I think that's why the importance of connection comes is like as long as we don't feel it it always becomes like something that we're somehow doing, everything is somehow okay, but still it's not what we want basically.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
tell me, no, tell me.
Yeah. So as I was, as we are talking about the connection, that's why I believe really some people maybe intentionally, as you say, disconnect from the heart, disconnect from this kind of connection and communication for their own protection, for not feeling safe. And as you spoke about being vulnerable, it's also there are situations where you can't be vulnerable, you can't show
Yeah,
vulnerability. Vulnerability can only be when there is safety. So
yeah,
there are these moments, and if there is a lot of moments when we don't feel psychologically safe, we feel like I'm going to be judged all the way through. I can't afford, or I don't want. Those are and when we have so many of these moments that we actually don't even show who we are, and we are not connecting. It
yeah,
always stays intellectual, and inside we feel empty.
yeah, exactly. So the way that I'm thinking about connection is like our our way of understanding ourselves, our way of feeling ourselves, and recognizing certain things that we're not good at or good at, whatever they are, but also being so much in acceptance of that. And it's sort of like the way I feel it is it all like are jointed and like connected, right? In within myself. This is how I feel it.
Yeah,
And therefore like building relationship with others or with myself becomes so much easier instead of keep trying to fix it or instead of like keep doubting or keep fixating on certain things, right? It becomes so much more like yeah, the flowing is the word that keeps coming up. And I think that type of connection then allows me to like connect to people that are my people easier because then I can really
hmm,
see where they're coming from. I can understand what they're saying and why they're saying.
hmm,
And it doesn't need to be like proving to each other anything or showing off or anything, right? But it just becomes, yes, I hear you.
hmm,
Um, and because I understand what they're going through or
hmm,
how they're saying it, I can connect to them more easier and on a deeper level, it feels like, versus trying to always like be vigilant or trying to be, is this my person or not my person, or am I going to have conflict, or am I going to this, do I need to behave this way, or do I need to perform? It becomes like so much more brain energy to be censoring and trying versus being like, yes, this is me, this is how I build relationships,
Yeah.
and I also know who's my people and who's not, and that makes things so much easier.
Yeah, yeah, and exactly. So what you are saying, what I'm hearing is really the basis of our connection to others is connection
Yeah,
to ourselves. We
exactly.
first need to feel, be connected with ourselves to really establish meaningful relationship. Because when we
Yeah,
feel we're connected to ourselves, that it's a feeling as you describe, it's feeling of calm and peace, right? There is
yeah,
no
exactly.
internal, like we are okay with ourselves, and then the whatever heart intuition, whatever it is, tells us, okay, exactly who is the person that would be good for me to connect with, and who is the person that will the sort of friendship, relationship, connection would be a good one. So I think that's why it's so important to connect ourselves, to know ourselves as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I was also thinking that there might be some objections from people that I recently heard from one humanitarian who was saying that, yeah, your feelings are great and all, but uh, let's get to the other side, basically, is
Yeah.
the objection I hear, right? So basically what we tend to often say, especially people who have more like the logical and
Hmm.
intellectual rational brains, and they want to make lots of decisions from those places, I think we tend to like get over the feeling part quickly or not even
Hmm.
think about it because we
Hmm.
just feel like it's a space that's unknown or we're afraid of them
Hmm.
and all of these
Yeah.
things. And if that is you, I would like to offer this, is that if we don't really feel and understand our feelings and connecting to them, we will not really be able to navigate ourselves to
Yeah.
making decisions, and making decisions from this clean place, from this powerful place, or from this place of trusting. Instead, we're likely to then keep rationalizing so much a lot of the times that we then go for the safe sounding
Hmm.
decision, which may not always be the one that we want to take, right? So, therefore, like no matter what we do, we all end up coming back to feelings. And the other thing is that we want to go to those like places after making decision is so we can feel in a certain way.
Yeah.
So we're all coming back to feelings no matter which like road we want to take. So therefore we may as well get to know our feelings of how they influence us, how they make us connect to people or not connect to people. And also, what I find is so useful is when we're connecting to people, it becomes so much easier to discuss and solve things rather than when we're just doing it because we have to and we need to be rational about it or whatever else we're saying. And those things are important, except that connection makes things so much better and faster way of getting to the results.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I would say also easier because, as you
yeah,
described also at the beginning, there is a free flow. If we are connected to ourselves,
yeah,
we are also feeling those people that, as we mentioned, those that would be good connection for us. It doesn't mean that we. It also doesn't mean that those will be the only people we would interact.
yeah,
Sometimes we do need to interact with people with whom we don't feel that there is a
yeah.
connection. But it's okay. There might be for certain reasons. We can't be all connected to all of our colleagues. I mean, we have hundreds of
Yeah.
colleagues, so obviously not all the hundreds of colleagues will be deeply connected to them. With
Yeah.
some, it's really just intellectual, but there will be few people that you will feel that the connection is deeper, and then learning and its exchange becomes so much richer and so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Amazing. So let's talk a bit more about how to create connection
Mm-hmm.
more intentionally. I think that's something that maybe many of us struggle, is that
Mm-hmm.
we believe that, oh, maybe this is just um, not natural, and it's either there's connection or there is no connection. And I think we
Mm-hmm.
tend to like make this type of assumptions and statements without really understanding how much how much of the ability we have to connect to ourselves and to other people. So what would you say, Vicky, is that
Mm-hmm.
how could we do that in the way that works for us to
Yeah.
create that connection to ourselves and to other people?
Well, Asel, I do think that one of the easy, I don't know if it's easiest for everyone, but non-complicated ways is really to listen to ourselves, and that means maybe staying in a silent place or place without distractions for a moment, because these moments when we are alone by ourselves, lot of knowledge might come to us. There is a lot of learning that will give us a lot of answers as to where we are we connected to ourselves, and also learning about others.
Yes, and my favorite one in creating connection is um, not letting judgments be in the way. And I think judgments, especially negative ones, are so
Yeah,
they keep creating presumptions that may or may not be true. But also what I heard recently, like I was reading George Jorge Bucay, he's an Argentinian poet, I learned. I read his poem, I guess, that where he says, listening to yourself is when you hear what's actually happening,
yeah,
but when you are judging is you are only hearing what you want to hear,
hmm,
and you're not hearing what's actually happening, right? So, and I love this way of thinking about it. Judgment is when we hear what we want to hear
yeah,
or what we think is happening, but the reality might be different. So that's why when we are wanting to connect to other people or to ourselves, if we removed all the judgments of how we should have been able to, or all the whatever things, if we remove that, then what's really there, right? What feelings are they really there? And what are they really telling us? So if we make it very concrete, is like, if let's say we're trying to connect to our loved ones, is if we stop judging them of they didn't do this, they didn't do that, they should have been da 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 da, if we don't do that, then we can really hear what they might be struggling with,
yeah,
or
yeah,
what they might be going through currently that we may not be aware of, and therefore it's becoming difficult for that person to do the things or to be with us or whatever it is, right? Then we can connect to them more on the human level and say, yes, I hear you, because we may have experienced it, or even if it didn't, we can still relate to it. So that would be like my number one thing
yeah,
that I would suggest.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's very good. What you're saying is so that there are loads of these judgments or these inner critics that come and really pester us, and so I would also say listening to what is happening inside, but also listening really to what is our body, what is our body telling us, or
Yeah.
listening, or if you are listening to others, as you mentioned, listening to things that have not been spoken, listening, so to
Yeah.
speak, between the lines. I think those are actually probably that's usually the deepest learning that we have about the others, because there's certain things that come through words, but if we see
Yeah.
the posture, if we see the the mood, I think that will tell us a lot. We shouldn't assume as well that this is because this is this and this, but it gives us sort of the it gives us the opportunity to ask further questions, to understand and build deeper.
Yes, and the other thing that I think is so important about the body that you mentioned is that I love doing is feeling the body just on its own without giving any explanations or like this shouldn't be or should be whatever, but rather just like I like to think of it keeping like giving breathing space to the body and just allowing all the feelings to be there.
Yeah.
And then once noticing what the body is going through and where it's tense, where it's not. And I think for people who meditate, it might be very familiar practice. For people who don't meditate, it may not be. So therefore, the way that you would do, or the way I do at least, is I just hold
Mhm.
parts of my body and feel it, how it feels, what it feels, right? And do I feel heaviness, or do I feel something else, tension?
Yeah.
And then as soon as I start focusing my attention to those places, then it somehow starts like as if my body starts speaking.
Mhm.
It feels
Exactly.
like, right? So that's why like there are so many different ways that we can connect. I think that's why when we connect with other people, we connect also with hugs, with other physical activities, right? And those are also great ways that we can connect to be on the human level
Yeah.
and dropping all the other things of who we're supposed to be or not supposed to be, but rather being, okay, I'm human, this person is human, and this is how we're going to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, as you're mentioning, that as we're talking about how to connect one to oneself, it's really any meditative or mindfulness practices that there are. Those are usually the best ones to create this space. But these things can be very very easy. And once I attended many years ago a different meditation center, and this one was one in France, and really there was walking technique,
Yeah.
just walking slowly, walking very slowly, and being mindful. So things that one can do really at any place without needing to sign up for a course or anything sophisticated.
Yeah. And I also love the other way that I connect. And like walking gave me this reminder that when I walk, I dream a lot. And
Okay.
and I find that one of the great qualities of dreaming is that it frees up, like frees a
Hmm.
lot of constraints that we on daily life have in terms of, oh, I can't do this, I
Hmm.
have to do this and all of this, right? So therefore I find that my brain's way of like freeing all the
Hmm.
possibilities to be existing and therefore automatically relaxes my body, because I
Hmm.
find without relaxing we can't really dream, at least that's my experience. So
Yeah.
that's why
Hmm.
like whatever the type of experience that you want to use mentally that gives the relaxation to the body, that could be also another way to start connecting to yourself, right? And like I think there's so many techniques that you can explore what works best for you, but what I would love for you to really think about is no matter what technique you try, the goal is feeling whatever is happening within you,
Hmm.
just the way that you would try to do that with other people when you are connecting, right? So, for instance, if we have our loved ones seeing worried or something
Hmm.
else happening for them, we want to understand, we want to be
Yeah.
helpful, we want to be supportive, we want to be there for them. The same goes for ourselves. And even if you haven't tried it or you're not used to, you can always make the first step. Whatever the direction you want to go, take the first step.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we have said a lot.
Mhm.
Anything, Vicky, last word before we finish?
No, I think I should say we said a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So we always encourage, of course, to get in touch with us
Hmm.
in case you have questions, you are not able to do certain things, or you keep entertaining doubts and hesitations a lot more than connecting, which also happens, right? So absolutely let us know. We'd love to answer your questions or coach you on this matter. So
Hmm.
until then, stay safe, stay connected, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Yes. Stay connected. See you next Thursday.
Thank you.